Okay. Good afternoon, sir, classmates. We are Group 1 and we are assigned to report, and we will try to discuss the basic occupational safety and health regarding fire safety and control. Next slide, please. Yeah. These are the names of our group mates. Okay, so let's start with a bit of an introduction. What is fire? Fire is a rapid oxidation of material in the exothermic chemical process of combustion, releasing heat, light, and various reaction products. So, um, essentially, we have already learned this from our chemistry class that a chemical reaction surrounding combustion is typically any fuel or hydrocarbons, may it be methane, propane, ethane, butane, what can it be? Any hydrocarbon, um, may it be which usually reacts with oxygen. A complete reaction yields to carbon dioxide and water, respectively. So, for example, a burning wood will usually will usually result in carbon dioxide and water when combustion reaction is happening. So, number two, fire in its most common form can result in conflagration, which has the potential to cause physical damage through burning. So, what is conflagration? It is the negative side of generating flames. It is caused accidentally or negligently, and of course, deliberately. So it all roots to us humans, mostly due to either carelessness, lack of awareness, and just evil. So next, oxygen, heat, and fuel are frequently referred to as the fire triangle. The fire triangle components are the combination of required for ignition and combustion. So the fire triangle, which you can see on the screen, there we have a presentation there. Can be the fire tetrahedron if we add the chemical reaction, which I previously discussed. Also, an important variable, as I've discussed earlier, is thought for us to understand how can we generate, or in this case, ignite a fire. One significant lesson from this is that if you want to prevent or extinguish fire, we can do so by eliminating any of these factors. That's one of the fundamental tricks in fire protection. You must find a way to take away at least one of these triangles. So, for example, take away oxygen, no fire. Take away heat, still no fire, and as well as fuel, we will not have fire. So, in one of the basic fundamentals that we need to learn for us to stop fire is to remember this fire triangle. Um, okay, next slide, please. Now we have the RA number 9514 Fire Code of the Philippines. There you can see the full disclosure of the meaning of that one. The essentially the meaning of this code is to recognize that safety of life is more than a matter of means of exits, and accordingly deals with various matters which are um, considered essential to the safety of life. The code usually it is um, it is um, signed by President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo in December 2008, which allows us to which allows us to give focus on prevention and suppression of all destructive fires, and as well as professionalization of the fire service as a profession. Um, so, basically speaking, um, um, to relate this to us engineering students, we are also concerned about this fire code because um, this fire code allows us to understand how can we lay out structures which leads to exits, um, hydrants, and anything of the sort that can suppress fire, which leads us to PV 1185, which is what to avoid in order to us to have a safe and less hazardous way of facilitating our own um, businesses. And that is first the combustible fiber, which is like cotton, waste paper, straws, anything that can lead to easy um, combustion, as well as combustible liquid, which is any liquid that has a flash or above 37.8 degrees Celsius. Next slide, please. Next is the accident caused by fire can result in serious injury and damage due to personal property. Personal property. Fire hazards are not always obvious in and around the home, so accidents involving fire and often unexpected and sudden. These accidents can occur from faulty wiring, defective products, discarded cigarettes, left on flammable materials, and smoke detectors that fail to activate. A major concern for anyone involved in a fire accident is the damage smoke inhalation can cause to the lungs. Um, these are just the preliminary threats and hazards that we may face in the terror of conflagration, which I've said earlier, um, can result to poor. It can cause to poor construction of homes, ignorance to the precautionary, lack of prior knowledge, can lead to serious injuries. Inhalation of smoke from fire causes nausea, vomiting, and carbon monoxide poisoning if worse. As I've said earlier, when we have combustion reaction, it yields the carbon dioxide. But what happens if there is um, a little um, but what happens if there's a little amount of oxygen compound there? It will not yield to a complete carbon dioxide, but will only yield to a carbon monoxide, which is poisonous to our respiratory system. So we must also take that in mind. Next slide, please. Um, um, okay. Before I end my introduction, a little fun fact. Did you know that from 2013 to 2017, the Bureau of Fire Protection recorded a total of 77,724 fire incidents, or an average of 15,545 fire incidents every year. That's approximately 42 fire incidents a day. During this period, the total estimated damage to property reached more than 23 billion, or if we think about annually, that's more than 4 billion every year. Um, a span of 45 years cost us this much money, and we are not even going to the casualties yet. The roots, well, if we are not bad people, then it all just boils down to negligence and accidents. Well, if we are bad people, then that's related to arson, which is just lack of basic safety awareness. So before we complain on political money missing, we can start understanding this fire control and protection to save us about 20 billion pesos for the next 4 years. Next slide, please. This here will now start uh, fire protection and safety. Is the study of practice of mitigating the unwanted effects of potentially destructive fire. Here we start the general provisions, fire suppression systems, drills, and standardized parameters when establishing facilities. Thank you. Next presenter, please.
So, Rule 1941, General Provision. Number one is all buildings for occupancy use shall be located in areas provided for by applicable zoning regulation for the locality. These are the Rule 1941 are regulated by is provided by the Fire Code of the Philippines. So, number two, specific standards in design and construction, occupancy and use of buildings and facilities shall be those prescribed by the Building Code of the Philippines. Number three, fire test of the building materials and fire protection equipment used in place of employment shall be those provided for the Fire Code of the Philippines. Number four, standards for the design and installation of indoor-outdoor general storage, sprinkler system, and fire protection system shall be those provided by Chapter 9 of the Philippine Society of Mechanical Engineering PSM or PSME code. Next slide, please. Thank you. 1942. definition. Fire rating or is the time of duration that a material shall withstand a standard fire exposure test. Next is splash point, the minimum temperature in degrees at which material will give off flammable vapor. Next is wood frame construction, a construction in which wooden framework forms that structural support for enclosure walls, floors, and doors. Slow burning construction, construction consisting of substantial masonry walls and heavy timber interior. Next, fire resistance construction consists of fire resistant materials designed to withstand without collapse during burning of the content of the building for a specific time. Next.
Rule of 1943, Building Constructions and Facilities. 1943 types of building construction. Type 1, fire restrictive, high-rise building made of concrete and protective steel. So, ang primary examples nito is yung mga commercial buildings na made of concrete and marami siyang and mataas na siguro sabihin natin mga 5-story. Sa non-combustible, newer buildings that build slab and reinforced masonry walls and metal roofs. Ang primary example naman natin dito is yung mga warehouse which is made of uh, kadalasan yero and metal pipes. Type 3, ordinary construction. New or old building with non-combustible walls but a wood frame roof. Ito yung uh, mga residential na bahay. And type 4 is heavy timber, older building with thick lumber used as structural elements. Ang main example natin dito is yung mga sa simbahan na mga luma na and yung mga lumang bahay na merong mga thick na lumber dahil nung mga panahon na yon, meron pa silang masukuha na ng supply ng old wood, old trees na pwedeng gamiting lumber noon. Kaya type 5, wood framed, many modern building with combustible framing and roof. So ito yung mga modern na bahay which is consist of woods lang, mga light materials. So 1943 segregation. Process of involving serious explosion and flash fire hazard shall be located in segregated buildings and only minimum number of workers required in the process shall be allowed inside at a given time. Next. Fire protection and control. So itong example ng fire protection, yung mga emergency exit natin doon, yung mga stairways, which is when in case of fire, pwede natin daanan at hindi na tayo dadaan doon sa main stairs or mag-elevator. Doon na tayo sa labas kung saan walang usok. Next. Fire protection and control. Installations of these facilities like those fire exits and fire stairs. Installation of buildings, facilities like hot water pipes and chimneys and heat-producing appliances shall be approved in these standards. 1943 storage. Significant quantities of commodities with fire hazard greater than ordinary combustible commodities shall be separated from main bulk by firewalls. So yung yung mga nagkakos ng apoy na mga appliances natin or nagkakos ng heat na pwede pagmula ng apoy, kailangan ng firewall na mag-segregate sa mga ibang gamit kung saan pwedeng makahawa siya. Yung pipigil sir sa apoy, for example sir, concrete wall. Pangalawa, commodities which may be hazardous when combined with each other shall be stored separately to prevent contact with each other. So ang primary example ko dito sir is yung pag naghalo yung pitch and ammonia, which is nagpo-produce siya ng toxic gas if maghalo siya. Which is delikado kapag kunyari sir na may sunog and naghalo siya ng aksidente habang nakakulong ka sa CR. Masusuffocate ka dahil sa lason. Third is water absorbed during fire fighting operation shall be considered in determination of the safe floor loads. Yun lang po. Next. Next reporter na po. (1944) Firefighting Facilities General Requirements Portable installation vehicle except those public utilities are subject to the provisions of these standards. Next. Firefighting facilities, yung water supply, which is kadalasan makikita natin sa ibabaw ng building dito sa atin sa Pilipinas. Water hydrant sa mga parte ng Manila, marami nito. Pero sa mga province na parte ng Philippines is walang ganong makikita. Hose and portable extinguisher. Ito requirement ito sa bawat mga building. So in case na magkaroon ng sunog, pwede siya gamitin. Next. Next report.
So yan, 1945, flammable and combustible liquids. First, tank storage. So, dapat dito, di lang kasi pwedeng, siyempre pag tanks, kaala natin bakal na mga welded steels, ganun. Depende pa rin siya sa, sa laman ng pinaka-tank natin. Iba rin yung sa combustible liquids, may specific na type ng metal na ginagamit doon. So, madidiscuss natin yung design and fabrication. Next, 1945.02, design and fabrication. So, yung design nito, dapat approve siya sa API or yung American Petroleum Institute. May standard siya sa paggawa ng welded steel storage tanks para sa mga oil or other liquids. And meron din part dito yung ASME, so American Society of Mechanical Engineers. Dapat pasok sa safety nila sa mga standards para masigurado natin na safe yung tanks natin. So, ayun. Dapat approve din siya yung supervise ng bureau. So, next. Installation and installation of outside tanks. So, sa installation kasi may above or underground. Meron yun mamaya madadaanan natin. So, sa above ground, sa taas, di pwedeng dito kasi mapapansin yung isa lang. So, may rule siya na di siya pwedeng magkadikit. So, may minimum distance na, based sa research namin, may minimum distance sa 3 feet sa mga flammable and combustible tanks. So, drainage, dikes, and walls above the ground. On above ground tanks. So, sana discuss ito sa kanina sa una. Kailangan ng drainage para in case na mag-spill, di siya makapekto sa mga tao kasi depende nga sa laman ng tanks, pwede siya maging hazardous sa lungs. Pwede rin kung flammable siya, kumalat siya sa building and magkaroon ng accident. So, wala na siya sa safety natin, sa safety standards. So, mas better din na mas malaki yung drainage kasi yung capacity niya, kung magbe-base tayo sa pinakasakto or di natin masabi kung maliit or sakto. So, pag nag-spill siya, so, pag lumakpa siya doon, edi mati kakalat na siya. So, dapat mas better, mas malaking drainage natin. So, yung dikes, siya? Siya yung parang pinaka-wall. Nag-search din ako tungkol sa dikes. Parang siya yung nag-iwalay sa tubig tsaka sa kung anumang parang bagay. Parang lupa siya. Then, 1945.05, installation of tanks inside buildings. So, pwede yung mga sa building, di ba may kita tayo tulad yan, service or supply, mga supply tanks. So, dapat yung capacity niyan, pansin nyo maliit siya. So, yung pinaka-maximum na capacity niyan sa mga loob ng building, dapat 6 gallons lang. Hindi siya pwede mag-exceed dun. So, next, underground tanks. 1945.06, installation of underground tanks. So, dapat may basis, una, matibay yung foundation. Next, surrounded dapat ng mga non-corrosive or yung inert materials. Kasi yung pinaka-tank natin, kung yung mga katabi niya is corrosive, pwedeng masira siya. So, pwedeng mabutas, pwedeng ma-destroy yung pinaka-surface. So, yung mga ano ba yung mga inert materials, yung mga non-corrosive, tulad ng buhangin, rock, tulad niyan, yung gilid niyan, semento. So, broken bricks pwede rin. So, para hindi masira yung tanks. Sa ilalim, kung nasa ilalim naman, tulad na ito, underground, kung ibabaw natin siya sa lupa, dapat 1 foot ng lupa and may nakalagay na for 4 inches kahit gano'ng kakapal na concrete slab. So, may iba kasi, purong concrete, yung iba na ma-reinforce, yung may pinakabakal. Kung nakita na kayo, may pinakabakal sa loob ng semento. May support. Service station. So, madalas naman natin ito nakikita sa mga tulad ng gas station, mga kailangan based sa code, may symbol na kunyari no smoking. Sinasabi rin kasi minsan na yung pinaka, 'di ba pa napapagasolina tayo minsan sinasabi off yung pinaka motor. So wala pa namang kung ba't ganun yung ginagawa. So sabi kasi since mainit yung makina, pag yung umaandar yung makina natin mainit. So pag kumalat yung para example, kumalat yung gas, so pwede siya mag-liab dahil sa init. So kaya pinapa-off minsan. Pati yung phone, sabi off your phones. Pero wala pa naman proof na parang paminsala. So kasi sabi kasi parang yung pinaka-battery ng phone yung iniingatan nila. Mamaya explode. So another cause of hazard. So next, processing of bulk plants. So lahat na buildings, installation, operation sa mga planta dapat pasok sa sa Rule 1160. So na-discuss na yun dati pa. And sa Philippine Electrical Code. Yung mga magi-install dapat syempre may approval ng department. Pasok sa SME, ulitin ko, pasok sa SME, API standard sa mga design. Yung pinaka-safety kung approvean ba siya. So, next, 1945.09, other installations, all other tanks installed not in conformity with this rule shall reduce their contents to comply with the distance requirements. Those to be installed shall be with the prior approval of the department. So, dapat yung mga gatas yan. So, yung ibang naka-install na tanks, na di pasok sa rule, dapat bawasan nila yung pinaka-content. Kunyari, nag-install na sila. So, may mga bagay na di-approve. So, dapat bawasan nila yung mga parang ano ba tawag doon? Parang standard na pinasa nila para makapag-comply sila. So, yun lang. Next reporter, please.
1946, combustible solids. Combustible solid is a solid which is readily combustible or may cause or contribute to a fire through friction. Readily combustible solids are powdered, granular, or pasty substance which is dangerous if they can be easily ignited by free contact with an ignition source. Flammable solids are more hazardous when widely dispersed in a confined space. So yung unang-una is yung nitrate motion picture. Nitrate-based film is a highly flammable at temperature around 100 degrees Fahrenheit and cannot be extinguished once ignited. Pag daw nag-apoy na siya, almost impossible na siyang mapatay kahit ng kahit ano. So para mag-store ng mga nitrate motion picture, keep the relative humidity between 30 to 40%. Do not store in a non-ventilated or sealed containers like tape, cans, or boxes. And keep the storage area well ventilated. So next is the plastics. It is used in lacquers, plastics, and artificial leathers. Pyroxylene lacquers are made by dissolving pyroxylene in a mixture of volatile solvents and adding a plasticizer and a pigment or dye. Pyroxylene plastics are made by colliding pyroxylene with a large amount of plasticizer such as camphor, and it is highly flammable. So, paano mag-store ng mga ganito is, cabinets in one workroom shall not contain more than 1,000 pounds or 454 kilogram of raw material. Each cabinet shall not contain more than 500 pounds or 227 kilogram. Each compartment shall not contain more than 250 pounds or 114 kilogram. Ito rin yung sobrang hirap patayin na bagay kasi kung naalala nyo yung nasunog na plastikan sa Pandacan, Manila, kung saan almost buong NCR na yung responding bombero pero hindi pa rin nila mapatay. And yung ginagawang skyway sa tapat nun, bumagsak na sa sobrang init kasi sobrang hirap patayin yung sunog. And next is the magnesium. Magnesium metal and its alloy are explosive hazards. They are highly flammable in pure form when molten, or in powder, or in ribbon form. Burning or molten magnesium metals reacts violently with water. Conditions for safe storage, including any incompatibilities, store under argon in tightly sealed containers. I-store daw yung magnesium through cool and dry area, and store it away from heat and direct sunlight. Storage area should be free of combustible and ignition sources. Fourth one is the titanium. Titanium powder is flammable and highly combustible. Use dry chemical, sand, or lime para mapatay yung pag nasunog yung titanium, para daw mapatay yun, gumamit ng dry chemical, sand, or lime. Huwag daw gagamit ng water and sa pagpatay ng burning titanium. As an explosion may occur, poisonous gases are produced in fire, including titanium oxides, titanium tetrachloride. It shall be stored in a well-ventilated places located away from areas of acute fire hazard. Containers shall be plainly identified and tightly sealed until use. And lastly is the zirconium. Zirconium powder or dust granule is highly flammable and can explode spontaneously in the air. Dust of pure zirconium will ignite or explode when in contact with water. So, alam naman natin no, kada fire extinguisher, may nakalagay doon kung para siya sa chemicals, para sa electric. Kaya yung itong zirconium, bawal siyang gamitan ng water pag nasunog kasi pwede siyang sumabog. And para sa pag-contain nito, dapat i-store ito sa 5 to 10% na concentration ng moisture. Next.
Rinig po ba? Wait lang.
Po, classmate.
Wait lang po. So, sa electrical installation po, andito po yung mga general requirements, lalong-lalo na po sa Rule 1210. Yun po yung pinaka-dapat pong masunod po. So, yung sa Rule 1210 po, andito po yung Philippine Electrical Code, which is yung ito yung nag-aano ng standard na ma-meet yung safety ng mga employee. At dito na rin pumapasok yung mga practices of electrical engineering. So ito po yung mga general provisions. So number 1 is no electrical installation shall be undertaken without the plans having been approved by the secretary of his authorized representative. Sir, sa ano po, sa rule, sir, sa ano po to? Sa book po ng BOSH, ng DOLE po? Opo, sir. Meron din po yung pangkin ko po. So, ito po, sa DOLE. Yes po. Opo. So, ito po yung sa Philippine Electrical Engineering Law or the RA 184. Ito po yung act na nagre-regulate ng practice ng mga electrical engineering sa Pilipinas po to provide for the licensing. Dun po sa dito nga po sa electric. Wala po, sir. Research lang po, sir. Opo. Nakasaad na rin po yan sa general provisions po. So, alam mo naman po natin na yung most electrical fires are caused by faulty outlets, pati na rin yung mga luma na appliances and yung mga outdated wiring systems. So, para po ma-avoid ito, may mga tips po to avoid overloading outlets wag po na mag-overload ng mga outlets with adapters and yung madami pong appliances na naka-plug. Tapos yung mga cords po, yung lalo na yung mga parang may like parang napuputol na po. Tapos yung mga nasa loob ng carpet or naanuhan ng kung ano-ano man na hindi makikita na maaaring mag-cause ng pagka-kuryente or sunog. So, isa rin po yung yung helpful is yung paggamit po ng ground fault circuit interrupters or GFCIs. Ito po yung nagpe-prevent ng electrocution, yung pagkukuryente po. Generally installed po ito sa mga sa mga area which saan po yung mga pwedeng maanuhan ng tubig po, like bathroom, sa kitchen, or sa mga workplaces po. Kasi ito po yung yung parang, kunwari pag may taong na-shock, ma-sense agad nung GFCI and ikakat niya yung power. So, tapos, sa po, YouTube po. Oo. Pero meron din po sa platform namin po. Yung bigla ka. Opo. Opo. So, ito na rin po yung sa mga emergency system. Po? Sige. Isa-send na lang po ng sir. Opo. Opo, sir. Sige po. So, dito naman po tayo sa emergency systems po. Ito na po yung mga makikita man naman po sa lahat ng buildings, lalo-lalo na sa schools or workplaces. Yung mga natatempt na students na ibaba yung mga alarm para yung mga fire alarms, ganun po. Yun po yung parang, kunwari may sunog, may ibang may ibang, opo. Tapos, opo. Tapos yun na po yung parang warning po or anong tawag dito. Para po, opo, may iba't ibang klase po. May pipindutin lang din po or may nagsasense na po agad. Yung patulad ng mga hotel po, kunwari po. Yung mga naninigarilyo, ganun po. So, ayun lang po. Thank you.
Next po is 1948 alarm system and fire drills. Yung pinakauna po niyan is sounding devices. Sabi po dito, all buildings having 2 or more stories in height shall be equipped with fire alarm system and signals of distinctive quality and pitch clearly audible to all person inside the building. Siyempre po, pag maglalagay po tayo ng mga sounding device, kung 2 or more story po yan, kailangan po yung bawat story po ng building, naririnig po yung fire sound device po. Yung mga example po niya, ito makikita niyo po dito is yung pinaka common po is yung continuous bell po, yung nag-ring ng nag-ring. Meron din pong yung dati po ata yung ginagamit, meron din pong horn and yung wang-wang po, parang may yun din po, ginagamit din po yun minsan. Next po is Opo sir, ginagamit din po yun. And then po, red po talaga sir. Opo. Next po is hand operator sending station of fire alarm boxes shall be provided on every floor and located that travel to reach a station is not more than 30 meters for industrial and commercial establishment with moderate or low hazard occupancy. Ito po yung hand-operated sending station. Yun po yung pinipindot po para mag-trigger po yung sound alarm po. And then, kailangan po if commercial establishment po, yun po yung mga gumagawa ng mga products po na building. Kailangan 30 meters po sa pinagpaplanuhan na po kasi yan. Ang karaniwan pong kung saan po magpipindot ng alarm is dead center po para po doon po talaga pupunta yung tao para pindutin. Ma-access po ng kahit saang parte ng building po. Mabilis po mapuntahan. Siyempre hindi niyo naman po ilalagay sa pinakagilid diyan na pag malayo pa po yung pupuntahan nila. Pinagpaplanuhan na po talaga yan sa bago pa po gawin yung building po. And then yung fire alarm station shall be conspicuous, readily accessible, and in the natural path of escape from fire. Yun nga po, yung kasasabi. Wait po, sir. Yung po, yun po. Kitang-kita po. Opo, sir. Kaya nga po na kulay pula po yan, sir. Kaya kitang-kita po talaga. Opo, sir. Yung pang-apat naman po is pag business establishment naman po 61 meters away po talaga. 60 meters 1 meters away po sa kung mapapansin niyo yung sa mga dahil po may mga workers sa commercial establishment, mas maraming workers. Kaya yung yung fire system nila, kailangan 30 meters away lang po sa kanila. Yung sa business naman po is 61 meters. Next is firefighting drills. Every place of employment, depending on the magnitude of potential fires and the availability of assistance from the fire department, shall organize a fire brigade to deal with fires and other related emergencies. Yung ito naman po, syempre po yung mga building, kaya lagi pong bago po gawin yan, ay pagtapos po gawin yan, may mag-check po na mga fire may kailangan pong fire inspections po dyan. Tapos yung sinasabi naman po ditong fire brigade, ito, yun po yung mga taong may kaalaman sa mga fire, kung paano mag-deal sa mga fire po. Like firefighters po. At sa mga malalapit na fire departments. Second is, the member of the fire brigade shall be physically qualified for a job and properly trained on firefighting, use of hose, line, ventilations of buildings, salvage operations, rescue operations, first aid, and other related activities. Yun din po yung sinabi ko kanina na yung mga fire brigade may kaalaman sa mga kung paano yung pag-handle ng mga fires. Yung panghuli po is fire exit drills. Fire exit drills shall be conducted at least twice a year to maintain an orderly evacuation of building unless the local fire department requires a higher frequency of fire drills. Yun po, yung para po lagi naman po may ganun. Kahit sa school din po, meron din po mga fire exit drills po kung paano yung pag-handle sa tamang pag-exit po. Then fire drill shall only include evacuation of person and shall not include salvage operations. Ito po, ito yung salvage operation, yung pagsasalba po ng mga gamit po. Ibig sabihin nun, kailangan yung mga fire exit drills, nakafocus lang siya kung paano magligtas ng mga tao or workers po sa establishment. Hindi na po kailangan isama yung kung paano magligtas ng mga gamit-gamit po nila. Number 3 is in buildings where the population is of a changing character, the fire exit training of the regular employees shall include the proper procedure to direct other occupants to safety. Ibig sabihin po ng changing character, yung kasi may mga establishment po na hindi naman po gumagalaw sa yung mga workers, parang nasa computer lang sila. Yung iba po is lumilipat-lipat po yan. Dumadami yung tao dito sa baba, tsaka tao sa baba or sa taas. Naiiwan po. Kaya kailangan alam po nila yung pag-exit talaga. Kasi kung by floor lang po yung iisipin nila, kung nagche-changing po ng pesto yan, mahihirapan po sila. Okay. Number 4, occupants of each department floor portion of the building shall be designated a particular place to assemble outside of the building and in places that will not hamper firefighting. Ito po yung pagtapos na po yung nila makalikas na po or makaalis na po doon. Kailangan yung pagpepestuhan po nila hindi po nakahambalang sa kunyari malapit na kung saan po pepesto yung mga firefighters po. 5 is when 2 or more establishment occupying a building, fire exit drill shall be planned as if there is only one establishment. Ito po yung mga malalaking building po. Minsan po is dalawa po yung company na nandun. So hindi naman po pwedeng magkaiba po sila ng fire exit po or fire drills exit po para kailangan po mag-isa lang po sila para mas unity po yung paglikas nila. Number 6 is the organization and composition of a fire exit drill committee shall be as provided by the requirement of the local fire department. Ito po yung fire local department daw po yung magbibigay ng fire exit drill. Kailangan po ma-approve po nila yung bago po ma-publish or bago po gawin yung fire drill na sinasabi po. 7, fire brigade as required by the local department or the fire code shall be organized. Yun na po yun. Yung fire brigade is binibigyan na po ng local department kaya na lang din po bahala mag-organize. Yun lang po.